Next, in topic 2, creating customer value, we are going to talk about contributing to customer satisfaction. So, if you are a marketing major, you might be surprised that supply chain cares about customer satisfaction. And we do have a little bit of influence in the marketing. So you'll see as we get into here how the supply chain can affect the customer's opinion of the business. So the formation of satisfaction perceptions. So we have our customers' expectations. How does a customer develop their expectations to begin with? Well, they have their recommendations from their friends. Somebody said, hey, that restaurant's really great. I had, this is what I had. I had the lasagna, and it was awesome. I mean, I never had that lasagna. It was better than my grandmother's. Or, something to that effect. Or you look on Yelp and it's got 5 stars and there's 1,000 ratings. Could be something like that. It could be, hey, you're just going to walk in the door and you have no expectation. So it could be anywhere on the spectrum, right? So if we go into the diamond here, this is a decision point. The diamonds are decision points. So we have here, if our experience is less than our expectation, we're going to be dissatisfied. If our experience meets our expectations, we're going to be satisfied, right? But if our experience exceeds our expectations, we're going to be strong satisfaction. We're going to be extremely happy. So that's going to be based on that actual experience, which is at the top of the screen. That's going to be an input. So depending on that decision tree, if we have that dissatisfaction, we're going to go off to the right. Do not buy, you may complain, right? Some people may not complain and just never buy again, or they'll just complain to their friends. But if they're satisfied, they'll buy, and they may compliment. Just tell everybody, hey, I had a really good meal there. They may tell their friends. And if they're a strong satisfaction, they're going to go back there again and again. They're going to take their friends. They're going to bring a spouse, maybe their significant other. Who knows? They might even patronize that location and keep going and going and going. Who knows? They might even buy a franchise and open up one themselves if it's a franchise restaurant. So our perceptions really drive our satisfaction. So that's for a product, and then we have our service here. So we have our initial customer expectations. This is what you start off with. And then we might go to our up to our value proposition. So this is, let's say, the salesman starting to talk to you. You go to a car dealership. They're talking to you about a car that you're just walking around their parking lot looking at. And they're like, oh, you would look good driving that. Oh, what do you drive? Oh, that's a piece of junk. They'll talk you up. They'll talk that service up. And then we'll go over to the orchestration. They'll design and display the customer experience. Hey, let's go test drive this car, right? So you get the experience. So your actual customer service, that first moment of truth, what's your initial reaction, right? But after that initial reaction, what's your second moment of truth? When you actually have a cooler head. That first wave of that experience is gone. Maybe you come back another day because you chose not to buy. Well, that second moment of truth, you might be like, it accelerates great, but it turns like a turtle. It could be something like that. You might start questioning things. So loyalty, though. So if your experience is greater or equal to your expectation, you're going to be satisfied, right? You're more likely to return. So if you bought a car at that place, You may return there for your next car. You may compliment that location and go back and tell your friends the value gaps. So if your expectation was less, your experience was less than your expectation, you're dissatisfied, right? You're maybe not going to return, you're less likely to return, and you're probably going to complain to your friends. So businesses don't want that. So what's our value proposition? So these are the promises you make to your customers about how you'll meet their needs. Well, by doing this, we're shaping our customers' expectations, right? Have you ever been interested in a product and then all of a sudden there's leaked photos about what it might look like or the specifications of it? Have you ever wondered if maybe that wasn't a leak, the company actually released those, but secretly? I've wondered that sometimes because they're trying to set up the expectations. And then they can kind of gauge people's reactions based on the leaked information, perhaps. So by doing that, they shape the customer's expectations. Let's say your phone has 256 gigabytes of information or memory. Well, if they get a negative response and they say that's too small, well, the company might increase that when they actually release it. And now there's a pleasant surprise. And now they've earned that customer's business, right? Because it has more memory than they were expecting. But we have our moments of truth. Kind of like what I alluded to earlier, but these are slightly different. So we have two touch points, as they're called. We have our acquisition touch point and our utilization touch point. Our acquisition is when we actually choose to buy the product. We take it off the shelf, put it in our shopping cart, and go to the register and purchase it. So my wife does this all the time. And then we get to the utilization touch point. This is the one my wife has a little bit of difficulty with when it comes to clothing. So this is actually using what you purchased. So my wife will buy shirts at stores, pants at stores, just general clothing items, shoes. So she buys them, so the business got that acquisition. And some businesses are only concerned with the sale. They're not concerned with everything else, but the utilization. So my wife doesn't utilize some of the purchases she makes with clothing. So she'll see a shirt in her closet and see it still has a store tag on it. And then she asks me if she can return it, and I tell her no, we don't have the receipt anymore. But it's, if you think about it, every time you use your phone, for example, or your computer, that's the utilization touch point. So if you have an HP laptop or a Lenovo or a ThinkPad or any of the other brands that are out there, the Apple laptop, every time you use that, those companies have a vested interest to make sure you have an enjoyable experience. Because it's one thing to get you to purchase it, but to have you use it, that way you're satisfied, and when it comes back to time for another acquisition, you'll come back to them. So we need to look at our resource orchestration here. So how do we find what our customers want? So we have to develop the team. We have to select our team members, give them team roles. We need to build team cohesion. Basically, team building activities. Go out to eat, do trust falls, whatever you want to do as a team, but do something to build team confidence, some camaraderie. Do something. Don't just, okay, we got to do this. This is your part. Put it all together at the end. Actually go out and do something as a group. That way you have that better connection together. This is college. These connections might last you the rest of your life. So go ahead and do that. All right. So when we get those teams together, we need to find these value gaps. So at the top here we have our customer, and at the bottom we have our supplier, and we have a line that divides them. So we have our first gap, which is going down from the supplier to the box on the bottom. So this is known as a knowledge gap. management's perceptions of customer expectations. This is what management thinks the customer wants, right? So management will then try to translate those into a service standard or a product standard. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then we try to actually put that into a performance standard. So the third one, we lose that. And then the fourth is a communication gap. Trying to communicate these to our customers. So our fifth one here is a perception gap. Our customer perceptions of the actual service. And then our last one is the actual customer expectations. If we can connect management with the customer, we could eliminate quite a bit, couldn't we? Because if we get garbage in, where management's perception of customers' expectations, if we can change that to have quality data, we might eliminate a lot of these gaps. All right, so customer delight. This is what we really want for our customers. We want them to be delighted with our product. So they have to come in with no prior expectation. So we have at the top here our presence of expectation. They either have an expectation or they do not. And if they've had experience before, we have our experience performance over on the left. We have positive, negative on the left, and we have existing versus not existing on the top. And we have a 2x2 chart. So if they have no expectation and it's a positive experience, they're in the delight category. For example, going to a brand new restaurant. You have no prior expectation of the restaurant and you have a positive one, you're delighted. You're going to tell everybody. If you have an existing expectation, like this is your second time going or third or fourth, and you have a positive experience, you're satisfied. But if you have no experience with this restaurant and you have a bad experience, you're going to be outraged, maybe even pain. But if you have experience with this restaurant and you have a negative experience, well, dissatisfaction is what's going to happen. And you might tell your friends. So finally, how do we take people from their experience to being a loyal customer? Well, we have these categories here. We have loyalty and customer experience on this chart. So loyalty on the left, customer experience on the bottom. If they're dissatisfied, their experience is inferior, they're in what's known the zone of defection. They're going to defect to another company, another service provider, another product. They're going to say goodbye. So we have satisfaction. This is where we make our money here. So our experience is competitive. We're competing against other companies. However, this is the zone of indifference. If every time they come they have a satisfied experience, well, we need to keep making their experience better and better and move them over to the loyalty. The experience is remarkable because they're delighted. If we can get them into the zone of loyalty, they will always come back to us. And we need to maintain that. So this would be the core. Let's say, just throwing out some numbers, let's say the core 10 to 20%. But the zone of indifference might be another 60%, or even go as high as 80%. And zone of defection, it would say, is 10 to 20%. We want to maintain our competitive and our loyalty. And we want to move people from indifference to loyal. So as you can see here, this does play a little bit on marketing. So if you can get the customer happy, maintain a happy customer, you're going to have customers for the life of your business. They're going to tell their friends, you're going to get more customers. And that's going to make your business thrive. But as soon as you offer a bad experience, it's going to go downhill. So you have to maintain this. Keep talking to your customers. I hope this helped you get the idea of our customer experience and how it relates to our customer value.